Welcome back to GisselleOS. This is Giselle, and you're watching episode 5. It's also week 2 of the Giselle 130 card, also known as the Great Lock-In. And there are now 89 days until January 30th. Here's the recap of the past week. So this week, we've got an updated structure for the episode. I think it just makes it clear for me to put together what happened in the week from the ways that I see it, which is through the ideas that I've had and the events that I experienced, as well as the other media that has inspired me or just changed the way that I think. And then going through each of those from the personal lens as well as the business lens. When I learn one thing in one, it usually translates into the other. And I find it beneficial to document both. And that's how I'm seeing this series, is the documentation of my progress. So here we are, week 2. And this will be presented on my Traveler's Notebook. I picked this up from the High Tide Downtown LA store. And while getting back to writing, my ideas, my freaking life on paper has changed the game. I recently started doing more like long form journaling. I think it was about September when I started long form journaling. And so before I was bullet journaling, and there's lore behind why I picked that up. I went to, there's an art store downtown, well, in Sugar House, that I bought my moleskin at. And I used to just use one page a day. So I was just using my journal more as a way to like lock in a rhythm. So every day I'm at least checking in with myself, staying present in my goals and my intentions for the day. But that was very, very practical. I would write down what I ate for the day, what I did for the day, and then optional, like, fill the rest of the page, like a couple sentences of like whatever was on my mind. And so I didn't get to capture much of my experience. And recently I realized the importance of ideas in my work. It is so metaphysical for me that it can be hard to recognize the work that I do, because a lot of it is just refining ideas and developing my thoughts and then bringing them to life, which is what my stationery brand is, as well as this channel. So writing did a lot for my mental, because I was able to do what I was doing before was just like keeping those threads open, but then that's a lot of processing power for me to keep all of these details, especially when I'm making so many decisions throughout the day across different businesses, keeping track of those decisions, because then I would find myself revisiting that again and then forgetting that I made that decision. And so writing, just, I know then, instead of like, oh, I have to remember everything, I can just reference my ideas that are already written down. And luckily for my birthday, which is in August, so a month before then, I had been gifted a BMO journal, which is a company here in Utah. I had no idea that we had a journal company based in Utah. And I'm coming to find the different businesses that exist within the Utah stationery ecosystem. And I like to think of it as that way, because I can then see them as peers and feel like I'm contributing to something that is existing and bigger than just me. And then I got this one. I had already been wanting a small one to just capture like whatever I'm thinking on the fly, because when it comes to my phone, I will open it and instantly forget everything, because there is just so much fighting for your attention. So having something just to sit with yourself and the thought that you had, I have really appreciated, and being able to see my thoughts as well develop, just the way that I think, and capturing the process. Most of what I'm capturing is just what comes to life, which is the product. And that obviously has so many ideas behind it. So I am excited to see this notebook fill up and what it looks like at the end of it. But so far, oh, it's done a lot for me. Just the act of writing, there's so much to the experience. And I'm excited to share that with people that also value the same intention. And I'm coming to find the ways that I relate to this format. I'm also coming to better understand myself. Okay, I'm getting long-winded now. I need a timer. Okay, so this is a new addition to my everyday carry, EDC. And I wrote down, see, naturally I just like put things together, so I just have to write it down to let it out, because otherwise the thought just is, it's too much. You have to let it out one at a time. And that's what I like about writing, is it's like I have all of the yarn in my head, but I need to thread it. So writing has done a lot. It's changed the game, I'm telling you. I think 2025 honestly is the beginning of the analog trend, especially with AI. I see it so much in comment sections. People are saying, they're complaining about it, and it's kind of dystopian, because then you're consuming content and then someone's like, oh, this is AI, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, it's not real, and then people are just complaining about it being AI, which is valid and founded, but then it really makes you think like, damn, what am I consuming? And that's another thread of the week. Okay, let me not get ahead of myself. So the sections are going to be media, my ideas, and then just random thoughts that I wrote down. So I have it like separate sections. This is kind of just like me throwing things into the ether. Maybe they won't ever come up ever again in my life, but like, okay, let me just give them some time. So rundown of the week, pretty much a recap is, I'm very proud of myself of what I'm doing, and that's something that I let myself sit in last week, was how proud I am of myself of what I've accomplished so far and what I am accomplishing, and making sense of what I'm going through. It was confusing the past week, and that was the disorienting part of not knowing, of not understanding where I was in relation to my life. I got things done. I'm happy with my output. I'm proud of myself for what I'm doing. Of course, my grounding, my rest took a hit. Not even due to Halloween weekend. I just took my brother trick-or-treating and I went to bed, and that was one of the nights I caught up on my sleep. But as I've been figuring out my identity this week, I've realized intensity is something that I enjoy. I enjoy intensity, and I'm seeing the costs of indulging in that without any balance, without proper reset, a complete reset, and it caught up with me. I lost sleep, so that's the not so awesome part of this week, is that I've been doing a lot, but out of my own excitement, I lost my grounding and lost like 3 nights of sleep. Not completely, but it wasn't good sleep. And I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. It doesn't feel nice, especially when I'm very on top of my sleep. So I saw friends. I'll include my photos. Yeah, I took some photos. I think I'm gonna move here as I go through them if they come up. So I got brunch. I don't know if y'all want to be name dropped. I had breakfast with a friend, and also had another good friend come over, and we co-worked. It was great. I hadn't had an in-depth conversation like that in a long time, so it did a lot for me. And especially at a time when I was feeling so uncertain, I really needed that extra boost in that things don't need to be perfect. I just had this pressure on myself to create in a certain way, and I just feel a lot freer in that process, knowing that I can be proud of what I create simply because it's mine. And with that, I feel a lot more excited, especially with the developments that I've made in my identity and just understanding of what I'm doing. I'm excited to see that come to life, which is going to be the upcoming week. I'm implementing, so pretty much a brainstorm. That was one of the nights that I lost my sleep. And so now I have a much clearer vision of what I'm doing with letters, how I'm expanding, and the way that I'm cultivating my community. So implementing that this upcoming week, which is so nice because when I get in these phases, it feels amazing to refine these ideas, but at the same time, I want to see them come to life. I want to do them now. But that's why I have to think strategically and really take account of my energy so I can keep going. So that's the events of the week. In terms of the challenge, what like kind of movement has happened, it's been more conceptual, just restructuring, repositioning of myself, like generally business wise. And I'll go through that more specifically with like specific ideas that I want to share from the business and the personal aspect. Let's see what else. So, what I learned this week on the personal end, the ways that we use connotations versus definitions in our language, specifically with the word hard. And sometimes when we share things with people or when people share things with us, we use the word hard as a way to describe what we are going through. And this is a phrase that I did not use in my vocabulary because I personally did not resonate with the way that people would use it, which is, wow, this is something that is hindering you and you should allow it to hinder you, in a victim mentality. And that's why I didn't use it. And then recently I was talking about the work that I'm doing and I said the phrase, it's real and it's hard. It's real and that's why it's hard. And as someone who doesn't use that phrase, it felt right. And that was confusing. So I thought about it after and I realized that I was using the definition of hard. When I think of hard, I think of density, like atoms vibrating a state of being, rather than a situation where something's being inflicted on me. And that's when I realized that we can operate based on connotations, just feelings and general senses around things that we can mutually share. And we can choose a positive connotation. So you can see the same thing being hard in two different ways. One way that you are, in one, you are empowered, and the other one, you are giving your power away. So, yeah, what I'm doing is hard because it's real. It's honest and it's real. It's reality. It's not surface level. It's not just ideas. It's not hocus pocus. It's how am I bringing these things to life? Things that are just ideas. And they can come to life because they are part of nature. I'm just using it in a new way. Connotations versus your definitions. I also recommend revisiting definitions. If you can't define a word yourself, look it up. Build your vocabulary, build your understanding of definitions, the way that we think about the world, the concepts that we use to engage with each other and the world. Okay, another thing I learned personally is as I was finishing the design for Letters from Giselle, the month of November is available now. I learned the process of painting, this idea that I had earlier in October. So it just felt wild seeing myself in that picture. And it was just a drawing of the ocean, a view from below with the light coming down. And as I was drawing it, how I came to this is it just felt so familiar, it felt so natural to think about the light and the darkness and how they engage and how I felt unseen, like the darkness in the ocean, something that's alive, but a depth that not everything can exist in, including light, things that cannot be seen because of the depth. And something that I hadn't even seen for myself my whole life until now. But that pain of being unseen and the possibility of never being seen, it only makes me more grateful for the relationship that I do have with myself, for the ways that I do see myself. And I want to say to anybody who feels that way that you are not alone. While you may feel unseen, you are not alone. And there are so many people waiting to connect. And I think we're in a period right now of being hyper connected on the internet to being hyper connected in real life. Right now, the world is asking for us to join together in community, to help each other in a decentralized world where that means our personal relationships matter more. And that's why real things are that much more important. things outside of the digital and what's surveilled. Next part is business. Because I focused a lot on the branding for the stationery this week and also what I'd been going through personally, I have been thinking about identity a lot and really starting from scratch. And that was what was confusing the last week was how can I feel like I'm starting from scratch when I feel like I just got a handle on it? And I am in a very different place and I am building from new foundations. And now I'm ready to operate 100%. And that's the difference is that I am building something that is completely mine from scratch. Even in the way that I'm thinking about things, I want to create something new, something intentional, something meaningful, but something simple. And that's what I like about papers. You have so many different ways of presenting the same thing, and it means something so different to every person. And I think of it like Virgil Abloh with the clothing and the quotes. It was simple, but it had never been done before. It's just a way of thinking and executing. So I've been developing that, and that's part of the branding, especially with letters. I do. It is in a luxury positioning, but as a utility. So in the senses, it feels like luxury. And it competes in the luxury space, but at a price that's much more affordable. And I mean, don't get me wrong, paper's wonderful. But I just want you to get a sense of the range of what's happening in the stationery world. When I started the business, for me, it felt like, duh, like this is such a good move. And the feedback that I got was like, people think people are writing letters. It's like, yes, people write letters. There's people that like paper, paper people. And so I've really enjoyed diving into the stationery world. And I'm realizing that I can be the paper liaison. I can share with my audience what's happening in those realms as well. That's the industry that I'm working in is paper, stationery. So branding. Brand is the identity. So just thinking about it in the same way that you would a person, like starting from scratch, what elements define it? So what it looks like visually, what does it sound like? What feeling do you get from it? That guides the senses of the experience, thinking about how you're translating it and then how would it embodied in the product. That was the branding for LFG. Part of the branding was redefining how I engage with my customers as well as the community that I exist in. Right now in the stationery world, there is a trend of mail clubs happening. So I started letters in January and the mail clubs started picking up in August. There's, I think, one mail club that I knew of at the time in January. And now I get multiple ads for multiple different mail clubs, and they really expanded. I think mail clubs could be the future for artists because just with a couple hundred subscribers, an artist is able to maintain their life and their artistic lifestyle. How fulfilling is that? And 200 people, that's easily the people that exist within the current stationery mail club communities. So the art community can sustain itself. You subscribe to a couple mail clubs, they subscribe to you, you're keeping each other afloat. So I think mail clubs are going to have a big part in whatever art renaissance is coming up. I feel something bubbling and I see it in the way that the consumers are reacting. People are valuing authenticity and they're valuing unique expression and they're craving it. Going back to that AI conversation, people are valuing artists so much more and they are valuing the artist's presence within these companies. So if companies can fund artists, then they can resonate with those people that are against businesses that are using AI. So with that, social media is community simulated. You follow people, they follow you, and then based on those little nodes and how they connect, Instagram figures out who's where, what they do, how to serve it to their audiences. So social media is a network, and network is a system. You can hack a system. Because everything is a system, you can hack it. You just have to be intentional with how you engage with the system. That's social engineering. And first, that starts with figuring out the ways, the parameters that you can engage with. So that's watching a video, just giving something your attention alone means something. Engaging with it through a comment or a save, and then the way that you post as well matters. Every piece of content that you have has an audience, and you want to cultivate an audience through their behaviors. This is how you can engage with social media to show whatever platform it is, to show where you exist and where you want to exist within the internet ecosystem. So you can scroll away from something. Remember, your attention is important. What you watch tells those platforms something. So if it's not what you want to engage with, it's not what you want your world to look like, no, it's not part of your world. If you do view something, again, that means something. So just by viewing something, you affirm this is something I'm aware of, something I want to give my attention to. But it can end there, just a view. When you like something, you're showing that you want to connect yourself with this piece of content, media, whatever it is. So like it if it's something that you want to be in your space. And then if you save something, you're showing that it's something you want to revisit. Obviously, the platforms want you to revisit the app. So you're showing it. This piece of media is something that I am inspired by. You're curating based on this piece of media. So if you feel so, save it, like save. Or you don't even have to like it, but if you're inspired by it, you can still just save. And then comments, these are less frequent, show that you are present. You can have a voice, an opinion, a perspective in the space that would matter to the communities that are present as well. So that's how you can engage intentionally to position yourself as a brand. So I just started that like the last 2 days. We'll see what happens this upcoming week with that, since I'm going to be focusing on the brand. I'm changing the way that I interact with every piece of media, as well as the media that I consume, and being intentional with it. And honestly, it's made my social media more boring, but at least I'm spending less time on the internet, and that's part of being intentional with the media that I'm consuming. I want my influences to be refined at the level that I want to speak and share at. And that was the big shift that I had this last week through the way that I think about letters. When I started, it was very much a product that was finished and carried the message that I was trying to convey. And now I'm understanding how I'm creating a community and a movement through what I'm doing rather than just selling a thing. And part of that is cultivating the action that keeps it afloat, which is the act of writing letters. What is the importance of paper? What is the importance of correspondence, communicating through letters? What is the importance of sitting with your words, of refining your language and the way you communicate and connect with others, of being intentional with your presence and the way that you receive others as well as share yourself? That's all within what I'm doing with paper. And so now I'm thinking about it less as what the value is or what it is. I'm encapsulating that within the story of the experience, the feeling that someone has as they're writing, the unique experiences that someone would only understand if they wrote letters, and just paying attention to the different ways that people engage with paper. There's so many different ways, and now that I've been more intentional with how I engage with social media, so that's brought new ideas to my feed and creative ones too within the communities that I've been saving. But because I'm not getting smaller content creators, I'm getting the high level. This resonates with a large amount of the community pieces of content, so it's something that strongly resonates with a lot of people. And then overall for the business, I'm restructuring letters, how I'm selling it, how I'm delivering it. So that's coming up. That's part of what I'm going to be doing this upcoming week, along with the branding. And for my media of the week, paper media, right? Like, these things are so simple, but they're just so overlooked because they're so functional that we use them without even thinking, because we use them all the time. And paper media is just as important as any other kind of media. It's such a different experience. Like, even just a page, it's something that's ready for you to shape your world, that receives you as you give it. Whereas with the phone, your phone is fighting for your attention. This is letting you breathe. So yeah, shout out paper media that encapsulates really any kind of art that is done with paper. Like this week I saw these cute little sugar packets and someone had scanned a whole bunch and there were so many different designs and colors, but it was all just printed on a tiny little packet. Writing is another one. There's so many different ways to write as well, and the things that you're writing for and how you write, and that's kind of a hint, if you're listening, for letters. And then another part of my media is becoming intentional with what I consume and what I engage with. So I think I've already said that so many times throughout this video, but I care about where my attention's going. I can feel it when I'm doing, I can feel it when I'm thinking. I'm getting bored. And that's where I'm thinking about like designers for luxury brands. I really resonate with the way that they execute and the way that they maintain artistic integrity, but create a product that is capturing the vision of the masses through something so unique, but using simple mediums like clothing, perfume, shoes. They're so fundamental to the human experience, and that really resonates with what I'm doing with the stationery brand, is sharing something highly refined through a medium that can help people on a wide scale for human function. This is emotional technology. And these are understandings I wouldn't have gotten to if I didn't let the thought breathe, and paper lets you breathe. Life needs to breathe. It needs the pauses in between. And ta-da! A new update to the GisselleOS is I'm learning Japanese again. I have learned Japanese, well, I've like casually learned it. I've casually learned it since I can't remember the first time I picked it up. Maybe it was high school. I think it was high school, maybe junior year. And from there, I would use Duolingo. I learned the alphabet and then some vocabulary. But now I'm serious. I'm replacing the media that I would be consuming. I'm replacing the media that I would be consuming casually with studying Japanese. And it's also like an extension of my interest in writing and paper. I have a new script to practice, but that's been fun too. That's been fun to explore, and I'm excited to see where that goes, especially with the challenge going on, to capture my progress throughout the following 89 days. Part of my media is also going to be quotes, like little things that I thought of throughout the week that could be fun to revisit. Don't let your current reality dissuade a possible reality. So just because what you're seeing has happened doesn't mean that it has to keep happening. You can make it anything. This is just what happened. Yeah. Oh, another one. This is from a TikTok. I think I'm going to include it here. Maybe? We'll see. To conduct the orchestra, you must turn your back to the audience. Silly mama, especially when I'm thinking about so many of these designers, it again feels isolating artistically to want to create on a bigger scale with a bigger vision, but not having that support. Just remember, if you have the vision, you can bring it to life. It's just how dedicated you are to yourself and to your craft. That's simple. Really, that's how I've made it easy, is that I do these things not because it's what I want, but because I care. Okay, whatever. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you next week.